3, it's Championship Rugby League as the Widnes Vikings take on Whitehaven in the playoffs. It's the first of the playoff games in the Cooperative Championship here at the Stobart Stadium in Widnes as the Vikings take on Whitehaven. The winners stay in the grand final hunt, the losers are eliminated. And there is confirmation of how the Cooperative Championship table finished after the regular season, with Barrow Raiders finishing as the league leaders, just ahead of Halifax. Sheffield in third, Widnes came in fourth, Whitehaven in fifth, and Featherstone Rovers making up the top 6. And relegated were Doncaster and the unfortunate Leigh Centurions. Of course, Toulouse exempt from relegation, so Leigh went down with the Dons. So we're at the playoff stage, and this is the first of the games, the elimination playoff game between Widnes and Whitehaven. And on Friday at 8 o'clock, Sheffield Eagles take on Featherstone Rovers in the other elimination playoff in this Cooperative Championship series. And then next Thursday at 7:30 on Sky Sports 3, the top 2 go head-to-head in the qualifying playoff as the Barrow Raiders take on Halifax, a game not to be missed next Thursday. And in Championship 1, it's playoff time as well. On Sunday at 3 o'clock, Blackpool Panthers take on Hunslet Hawks in their elimination playoff. At 3 o'clock, it's Oldham against Swinton Lions as well. And then next weekend, Keighley Cougars face York City Knights in the qualifying playoff in Championship 1. Well, both these sides have injury worries ahead of this game. Several key players missing for the Widnes Vikings. Toa Koilove, John Duffy, Dean Gaskell and Ian Morrison are all out. Gavin Dodd is at full-back, Paddy Flynn, Tim Hartley, Shane Grady, Richard Varkulis, Anthony Thackeray and James Webster. In the forwards, Michael Ostick, Mark Smith the captain, Jim Gannon, John Gratian, Richard Fletcher and Lee Doran. And then on the bench, Ben Kavanagh, Scott Yates, David Horton and a debut for Danny Hume. And the coach is Paul Cullen. Now, Whitehaven a bit sore after conceding 105 points in the last 2 games. They too are missing several players. No Jamie Theoharis, Adi Adebisi is ill, and no Greg McNally either. He is left out because of a loss of form. Craig Benson is at fullback, Derry Eelbeck, Rob Jackson, Scott McAvoy, Craig Calvert, Carl Rudd and Leroy Joe, who captains the side. In the forwards, Kyle Amor, Graham Mattinson, Carl Edmondson, Andy Gorski, Spencer Miller and Andrew Thornley. And on the bench, Mark Jackson, Chris Smith, Dexter Miller and a debut for Reece Fox. And the coach is Jed Stokes. Well, the Widnes Vikings supporters will be feeling pretty confident about this, given that 3 weeks ago their side tonked Whitehaven by 58 points to 10. Dare to dream is the message from those young supporters. Dream perhaps of a double this season. Northern Rail Cup already in the trophy cabinet, and a grand final run is not beyond the realms of possibility, according to the coach Paul Cullen. He believes they can do it from 4th. It has been done before, but not for some 7 years in actual fact, since the old Northern Ford Premiership days. So if these two are to go all the way, well, they certainly have got their work cut out. And you'd have to fancy Widnes, Terry, on the basis of what they did to Whitehaven just 3 weeks ago.
They played really well, and in that game they probably bullied Whitehaven up the middle of that park, and it's very rarely that you ever see a Whitehaven pack get the game really tucked to them up the middle channel, and they were defensively over them people. Leroy Joe, the man in your picture, will be looking for a big improvement from his players. Here's the Widnes team that come out now, led by the captain Mark Smith. They look really confident. There's been a lot of talk around the town that they want to get to that final, and if they have to do it the hard way, they're prepared to do that.
And the supporters seem in confident mood as well, that their side can back up their success in the Northern Rail Cup, when they, of course, dealt with Barrow in that final. The referee tonight is Ron Lawton, who will have charge of this, as he did that game 3 weeks ago. But before we commence proceedings, there will be a minute's silence for the former Widnes director, Albert Harris, who died yesterday after a short illness. His wife, Sheila, and he were strong supporters of rugby league, not just professionally, but amateur as well, in the schools, and they even sponsored a trophy as well. So Albert Harris will be missed, and he'll be remembered this evening. In memory of the former Widnes director Albert Harris, and he'd love, I'm sure the club would love nothing more than to honour his memory than with a big win this evening. But if Whitehaven supporters need any cheer for tonight, they know that their side can cause an upset in the playoffs. They did that last year. They finished 5th, and they went and won at Lee. They went to Halifax and won as well. So it is within their capabilities. But they are going to have to get their act together after a couple of very disappointing performances. As I said earlier on, shipping 105 points in the last couple of games. They lost 58-10 here, and then they lost at Lee 47-14 last weekend. So they've just gone off the boil a little bit. And already a big hit going on, and already a little bit of a set too. Spencer Miller, I think it was, and Mark Smith in back play. Smith objecting to Spencer Miller's tackle. An indication maybe of the intensity of this game that we can expect, because just as in Super League, the intensity will raise.
There you go, and Spencer Miller again. You can see how tight that they're defending Spencer Miller. They're taking out Mark Smith, but they're really up for this game. Look at them, 1-2 men in the tackle. And has Widnes come up with the error?
They did, the ball went forward, and it was because of the pressure from Spencer Miller.
They're just getting off the line so quick. Here's the area, he puts his arm round, he knocks the ball forward from Mark Smith. But they're putting all kinds of pressure in that first set of 6. The speed of the line, how tight they are defensively. They are really going to take the game in that defensive department to Widnes tonight.
Well, that's a good positive start from this Whitehaven side. A little knot of Haven supporters who've made the journey on this Thursday evening to cheer their side on, encouraged by the early showing here. It is very early days, of course, but they are in possession after that error from Mark Smith, and they're on the charge with Andy Gorski, one of the experienced campaigners in this Whitehaven side. Gorski is tackled just outside that 20-metre in the area in the Widnes half, and then Edmondson takes the ball up. Carl Edmondson named in the Championship All-Stars side this week, along with his Haven teammate Kyle Amor. Quite a feather in the Haven cap, that is. Here's Leroy Joe, drops the ball back inside to Kyle Amor. That's right in front of those posts. Mattinson, Leroy Joe. Leroy Joe taking him on himself and getting there! What a start this is for Whitehaven. Well, justification as well for the team selection already. Greg McNally left out, Leroy Joe chosen to play in that role, and coming up with the early try.
Here's the mistake by Mark Smith. It's Whitehaven's head and feet at the scrum, but real platform laid by Carl Edmondson and Kyle Amor. And this is what he does best. Leroy Joe, he takes the ball to the line, and you've got to be on your guard. You've got to look up, you've got to defend what's in front of you. He looks up, he dummies one way, he beats Michael Ostick and Jim Gann, and he just gets over for that try. But he's got real vision, he's got pace, and he's also got strength.
He's also 34 years of age, so he's not doing too badly as the Cook Islander, who was playing at prop at the weekend. Talk about versatile. And 2 more points from Carl Rudd, and Whitehaven are ahead by 6 points to 0, and that is exactly the start that Jed Stokes would have dreamed of, not hoped of. And Paul Cullen, well, long way to go yet, but just an indication that whatever happened 3 weeks ago, although Whitehaven, I seem to recall, did score first there, as you see, they haven't won here since June 1997, and Leroy Joe was involved in that 10-8 win.
It's really important for Whitehaven to start the game correctly. They can't afford to let Widnes have things their own way, and that's why, as soon as they could get anywhere near Mark Smith, they put him on his backside just to let him know what kind of a tussle he's in for today. They're really aggressive on defence and really determined with the ball in hand. 4 excellent front rows on show tonight. Jim Gannon, who's probably been Widnes' best, Michael Ostick, Carl Edmondson and Kyler Moore, who's Leeds Rhinos bound.
A great run from Carl Edmondson to start this set of 6. He left Michael Ostick flat on the ground. That's 4 tackles gone as they reach the halfway line, Whitehaven. Yeah, I think they did score first in that 58-10 defeat, so you can't read too much into that. But here is Leroy Joe, a little kick over the top, and here's Gavin Dodd. Dodd to run it back, almost through the first line of defence.
Do you know, sometimes people often make the point, why does a winger or a fullback pass it on to the bloke at the side of him, thinking that it might be a dangerous play? Sometimes the player or fullback can see that there might be a touch of space outside, as we saw then.
Webster, Fletcher now, once of Whitehaven, Richard Fletcher. Widnes supporters appealing for an offside decision from the referee. Lee Duran waltzed backwards by this Whitehaven defence. And still they're urging the referee to give them the penalty they want. And then Thackeray hoists a high kick. Hasn't gone a great deal of the way forward, but it has come up for Thackeray again. And he's wiped the tackle count clean as well.
A good towering kick by Thackeray and putting pressure on the Widnes players. And obviously in his urgency to get up and play that ball, Rob Jackson's trying to control him and Widnes get the penalty. You can see the big kick, it's high. The Widnes players looking forward, they're putting pressure on the Whitehaven player, and Widnes have tapped it instead of going for the 2 points.
Yeah, Calvert couldn't deal with that kick, and now then can Whitehaven deal with this attack? Lee Duran is rolled onto his back. Now here's Fletcher. Shane Grady. Grady still going. Grady has got into the corner, has he? He has. No need to go to the video ref. And an instant response from this Widnes Viking side. And they should have stopped Grady there. But he somehow kept going and got in at the corner. Shane Grady gets his 3rd try of the season. He's only 19 years of age, one of the local youngsters who's come through the ranks here.
Both teams have the ability to score when they're close to the opponent's line. Shane Grady just hits a ball off Richard Fletcher, and he just goes straight and hard. He has a hit and spin. He's very powerful. Here's the mistake. You can see the pressure that's been put on. Thackeray gets the ball. Rob Jackson gives the penalty away. The ball goes wide. They come in on Richard Fletcher. Shane Grady stays tall, he stays strong, and he goes in the corner for Widnes.
So that Whitehaven elation didn't last too long. And that's the perfect response that the coach would have wanted. Hartley then with this conversion attempt from out wide. He's had his injury problems this season, Tim Hartley. But when he's been in the side, he's been pretty prolific with the boot. Not that time, though, just wide of the target. Widnes 4, Whitehaven 6, the scoreline here at the Stobart Stadium. Grady, the try scorer.
It's a real confident try, this. Instead of going for the points, Richard Fletcher just takes the ball to the line, interests Carl Rudd, who turns his back to the player that Richard Fletcher passes to and makes it almost impossible for Scott McAvoy to make that tackle.
Interesting to see how Whitehaven back up after last Sunday. Of course, they had to travel to Lee for that game. Quick turnaround to play here tonight, whereas their opponents, Widnes, have had their feet up for the last 3 weeks, and whether that will be beneficial will be interesting to see.
Sometimes, Bill, if you look at it, players are going to be fit come the end of the year. They've done all the hard work from last October when they go into pre-season, and it's very important that you go into the playoffs and you're mentally very fresh and up for every challenge that's put in front of you.
Thackeray's gone for a 40-20, but he didn't get the angle. But Flynn is chasing that one for all he's worth, and it's a great chase by Widnes. Look at them all.
Tremendous work from Widnes there. Paddy Flynn worked really hard and made it almost impossible for Whitehaven. And here they are putting pressure on them defensively.
And they can't make any forward yardage here. They're going backwards. Oh, audacious offload there.
Surrender. 3. Hold it.
It was Eelbeck who got the ball away.
Craig Benson with a bit of a job to do, but sometimes in those situations it's better to die with the ball. But I think they could see the line coming upon them with Whitehaven.
That went backwards, says the referee. They keep it alive. Still going backwards, he says. So they do keep it alive. And Jackson takes the tackle. That's the 5th tackle, though. They're still inside their own half. Leroy Joe. And had time to pick his spot for the kick. It's not the best one. And Gavin Dodd fields it.
Whitehaven not afraid to start throwing that ball around. As soon as they get the big forwards on the front foot, getting those quick play the balls, they will attack any time that they can. Widnes fans appealing for the penalty, but again, Paddy Flynn. Is it confidence, Barry?
I think they feel sure that once they get away from Melly in the middle, they're a good set of forwards, Whitehaven, and the line speed is good, and they're winning the impact, again forcing an error, Whitehaven. Richard Fletcher goes into the tackle using the ball carrying arm as a buffer and a bumper, and unfortunately on that occasion he loses it. I think he's claiming it may have been stripped, but Jed Stokes will be relatively pleased with the opening 10 minutes or so.
Last time we saw Jed Stokes, he had a purple beard. The whole lot of them did, didn't they? Had purple hair.
Was it not
pink? Pink, it was pink. Yes. Didn't catch on, thankfully. Here is Leroy Joe, and he's done well there to keep that ball alive, and then gets it to Spencer Miller. That was a charity game. Great night it was as well. It was in fact the game against Widnes, seem to recall. Or it might have been the game against Barrow. It was the game against Barrow in actual fact, and they did it for the breast cancer charity, the local hospital cancer unit, and it went down a treat, that did. Here again comes Spencer Miller. Miller is tackled on the 10-metre line. Leroy Joe now. Carl Rudd. Oh, the intention was good, but Gorski couldn't take the pass, and Gavin Dodd has brought it away strongly for his side.
Carl Rudd just takes that ball to line. Gorski was probably too high. He had a little look up, see what Richard Fletcher was doing. But again, it's the penalty. Gavin Dodd who gets the ball, that's his real big play. He can turn defence into attack straight away. On that occasion, Whitehaven give the penalty away and relieve the pressure for Widnes.
And that's to relieve the pressure for Whitehaven, because immediately they've come up with the error.
And it's not bad, is it, when the person who's made that mistake shoots out the line and he puts pressure on the opposition, makes him lose that ball.
Calvert on the run. He didn't like the attention he was getting from Ostick there.
It was Richard Fletcher who loses that ball. That's his second big tackle in a row. Slight bit of frustration from Richard Fletcher. Made a couple of errors so far.
But it's given Whitehaven the opportunity to put a bit more pressure again on this Widnes defence. Calvert has to put the brakes on, come back in field, across the field. Mark Smith gets a hold of him, the ball goes backwards, says the referee. Edmonds keeps a hold of it. Mattinson now. Leroy Joe, the kick across field, looking for Derry Eelbeck. Oh, couldn't get a hold of it. and it was shoveled behind by Webster in the end.
Eelbeck had hold of that ball then. He just couldn't grasp it. Here's the offload. It goes backwards. Edmondson, oh, just about handles it. Just watch Derry Eelbeck. He has it in his hands and unfortunately can't keep hold of it. Relief for Widnes, but for how long?
So the goal line dropout, and the ball on the halfway line. Now here's Carl Amor, signed for Leeds but loaned back to Whitehaven for the remainder of this season, training though with the Rhinos. Here they come again with Spencer Miller.
And it was against Widnes that he had that real big game and was spotted by the Rhinos when they played up at the rec.
That was the night that Greg McNally got a couple of tries and kicked 3 goals as well, but he's not out there tonight. Here is Andy Thornley. Thornley on loan from the Wigan Warriors, one of their reserve grade players, in fact played in the reserve grade grand final for the Warriors last year. Here is Leroy Joe. Leroy Joe's kick, looking for Eelbeck, and again they're going to get a goal line dropout, and what a great kick that was from Leroy Joe.
Using all his 34 years experience there, he knows that Widnes are a little bit tight, and Varkulius, who normally plays in the back row, really had to work hard to recover that ball then.
Have a ball.
So that's another goal line dropout. Well, he's not that big, but he's not that bad either, is he? Leroy Joe.
He's giving great service to the Whitehaven club just a year or two ago, celebrating a testimonial.
Tackles down when we get there.
And here is Kyle Amor again. Amor winding up for a tilt at this Whitehaven, at the Widnes defence. Gratian gets a hold of his legs.
One, go.
Coming up to the quarter-of-an-hour mark, and Mattinson is through. Mattinson breaks the first line of defence. Still going, Graham Mattinson gets the pass away to Jackson, and Rob Jackson is over. It's another Whitehaven try, and Graham Mattinson gets the plaudits for that run. And that pass that he flung really out of the back door, it was hit and hope as much as anything, and Rob Jackson got on the end of it, and Rob Jackson gets his 8th try of the season. And we said this was not likely to be a repeat of that run-in 3 weeks ago. It doesn't look like being so.
It's all about what your attitude's like to defence, and Whitehaven have turned up really strong. There's the kick by Leroy Joe. They get the drop out. Kyle Amor comes really strong onto that ball. He gets the quick play the ball. Graham Mattinson goes, and it's his second effort. Rob Jackson's backing him up, and you can see the Whitehaven players. There's a lot of players in your shot. There's a lot of players in motion. It's giving that ball carrier options. That's a real good play by Mattinson. He stays strong. He's looking for support, and who's there with him? Rob Jackson.
Rudd with the conversion attempt, which he struck sweetly. And it's a sweet-looking scoreline for Whitehaven. They are ahead by 12 points to 4, and tries in the last 3 games for that man, Rob Jackson. And a good piece of finishing from him there.
There's no doubt that Whitehaven have come here today with a set structure, a set game plan. Jed Stokes is aware that he's told his players, listen, we're a little bit sore, a little bit stiff from weekend. If we can use the ball and get it out there, let's play that type of rugby league, hot potato rugby league, and let's ask some questions of Widnes and just test their commitment.
Well, it's proving to be a test so far, but the last time Whitehaven scored, Widnes came straight back at them, so can they do that this time? Here's Carl Edmondson bringing it straight back.
And it's all about field position, Bill. You've got to make sure you control the ball, you knock out your set to 6, and you try and dominate when you're defending up this end of the park.
And what Whitehaven did, particularly for that try, they forced 3 goal line dropouts, and it just makes it harder to put effort on effort on effort.
Widnes, tough prospect on their own pitch here at the Stobart Stadium. They've won the last 6 at home, in actual fact. As we mentioned earlier, Whitehaven have a miserable record here. They've lost on each of the last 8 visits to Widnes. They've won once just in the last 19, in actual fact, so the weight of history is definitely against them. Deep kick downfield from Carl Rudd, and it bounces away from Richard Varkulis.
Oh,
Varkulis flirting with the touchline and into touch. It's all going right for Whitehaven at the moment. On the follow-up was Scott McAvoy to make the tackle.
Now there's a lesson for all the young kids at home. Catch the rugby league ball on the full, otherwise time will tick away and you allow, as on this occasion, your opponents to get hold of you. Just look at what it means to Whitehaven. They've come here to play.
There's another misjudgment from this Widnes side. And they've lost possession. Head and feed to Whitehaven at the scrum. Here is Leroy Joe now. Forward cry the Widnes supporters from well behind the line of play. Leroy Joe, spring in his step, Mattinson. Here is Rob Jackson, fancies another tilt at the Widnes defence. They're inside the 10 now. That looked a bit of a sloppy play, the ball. And the ball has been knocked forward.
I was just about to say Mark Jackson's on the pitch now. He'll make an impact, as he has. But were there one or two little tickles by the Widnes players? There's a few of them in attendance for Mark Jackson, a short, stumpy player with great power and can get an offload away.
So the mistake from Jackson, and Widnes Vikings have possession for the first time in quite a while, looking to do something positive with it this time. And Gannon,
the positive thing that they need to do, Bill, is complete the set of 6. They've made 24 tackles more than their opposition, and they really do need to build up some energy, because defensively that's what really tests you when you've got to wrestle big 18-stone players to the park. Mark Jackson trying to do that on Richard Fletcher, giving the penalty away.
And again, Whitehaven trying to slow this game down as much as they can. 3 players from Whitehaven, and look at the tight clinch that Jackson has there, trying to restrict Widnes players' movement.
3-0 the penalty count in favour of the Widnes Vikings so far, which is not bad going considering they haven't had that much possession. Here is Gannon. And they're up to the 30-metre mark in the Whitehaven half. Thackeray now. Thackeray. Good ball back on the inside. Now Mark Smith. Thackeray now. Gratian. Big long striding run from Johnny Gratian, once of Harlequins and Huddersfield. Thackeray. Lee Duran. Had Ben Kavanagh on his shoulder but couldn't get the pass away, and Kavanagh was steaming onto what he hoped would be the pass. Again, the crowd frustrated as Whitehaven try and delay things. Webster puts a little kick in, they're all chasing it, and Fletcher is claiming the try. He will have done well to get that, because there were 2 Whitehaven players who surely would have beaten him to the ball, but Fletcher reckons he got the touchdown.
They'll just check the onside, offside. Number 12 there, Richard Fletcher, appears to be onside. It's just whether he grounds this ball. Whitehaven try to kick it, try to put it dead. I don't think Richard Fletcher gets any kind of pressure on that. It's difficult to tell. Ronnie Lawton has a clear view. Whose is that arm just in the middle of it?
Good luck, Robert Hicks. He's the video ref. It's his decision.
What do you think, Tez?
I think looking at that, there's no downward pressure from Richard Fletcher. I think Thornley, who comes into the shot, he shields that ball. Richard Fletcher is unable to ground it.
There's an arm somewhere that forces that ball down, because you can see the motion of the ball stop. It's just who owns the arm. And Richard Fletcher looks pretty sure.
No try, drop out one.
Goal line dropout.
So it was a Whitehaven player that forced the downward pressure.
Optimistic shout that from Richard Fletcher, but hey,
It was like-
Shy Bairns getting out.
It was like a pig's tail.
Drop out. Right,
Too early.
down with the ball. Stay on side, lad.
So Mark Jackson gives that
Tackles down, lads.
goal
over
line
there.
dropout an
Discipline.
almighty thump, gets it over to the halfway line, and Jim Gannon then comes motoring back with it.
You don't see that often, do you? A prop forward dropping ball out. And again, this is what Whitehaven cannot do. Kyle Aymore giving the penalty away. They've got to make sure that they keep the discipline and keep the composure. You can't afford to give penalties away down your end of the park. Again, it's that second effort trying to control Jim Gannon.
They're inviting pressure with these errors, and they're in discipline at the moment. Here comes Fletcher again. 21 minutes gone here. Whitehaven ahead, but under pressure from this Widnes side. Here is Thackeray now.
Just watch that third man jump in the tackle, trying to slow Widnes down. They can't afford to let Widnes play with pace.
Oh, the pass from Smith shot out the back door. Gratian couldn't take it, and another opportunity goes begging, and frustration from Mark Smith there, I think.
Mark Smith being driven back, has the ball available and thinks, I'll just pop it back in the hope that one of my Widnes teammates can collect it. Sometimes you're better off just taking your licks and playing the ball. He didn't like what was said to him after.
So, a let-off for Whitehaven after conceding that penalty and allowing Widnes to really put pressure on them. Neither side really squeaky clean so far, but Whitehaven have taken the chances that have come their way.
And that's a good tackle by Richard Fletcher. They must make sure, Widnes, that they turn their opposition on the back. They're that big, they're that strong, they play up that middle channel, Whitehaven, and that's where the strength is in the game.
The penalty goes against Widnes for the first time this evening. Offside is the cry from the referee, Ron Lawton.
And Widnes trying to get that speed of the line. You hear about it all the time in rugby. You don't want to give your opposition that time to build up in the momentum going forward. On that occasion, they were stood in front of the referee and give that penalty away. Again, inviting Whitehaven down into their territory.
Scott McAvoy now, one of several players who've been signed up for new deals by this Whitehaven club for the next season. Encouraging for them. Mark Jackson now. Have they weathered the storm for the time being? Here is Mattinson. McAvoy again. Good strong run from him. Mattinson once more. Mattinson causing problems for this Widnes Vikings defence with his running. That time he's stopped short, but here is Kyle Aymore, and Aymore is over! And it's another try, or is it? Video ref decision again. I'm certain that Kyle Aymore has got that ball down. Or was there a double movement?
I think they're going to check with Robert Hicks. Does he get downward pressure? Well, looking at that,
that's a try.
Definitely does.
That's groundward pressure, Tess.
Groundward pressure, yes. There it goes, under the sticks.
It's another try for Whitehaven, and it's Kyle Aymore who's got that one underneath the posts. And the little army of Haven supporters away on the far side of the field, delighted with what they've seen so far.
You can always tell when your forwards are starting to get out on top of the opposition, when the halfback gets the ball and he goes forward. Kyle Aymore, he just picks the direct route, he runs straight, he runs hard. Mark Smith cannot get off the line to put any pressure on him, and the big fella scores.
I slightly disagree with Kyle Aymore's run there, Tez. I think the fact that he hit Mark Smith and then hit and span meant that it freed his arm up to place it down.
2 more points from the boot of Carl Rudd. 18 points to 4. Whitehaven lead here at Widnes. They're doing what they did last year. They travelled away from home in the playoffs, having finished 5th, and they caused upsets at Halifax and at Leigh. Well, they're doing a pretty good job so far here tonight, and Widnes have got to lift their game.
I think we're right with this scoreline, Bill. It's not going to be the same as it was a couple of weeks ago. I think it might end up being 98 apiece at this rate.
But you know yourself, though, don't you, Barry? When you're standing on your own line, whether you've not moved forward, it's very hard to try and control somebody. If they built up a head of steam of 10, 15 yards, trying to turn them over, it's a very difficult task, unless you put a real good shot on him.
This Widnes crowd down below is crying for everything, in the hope that Ron Lawton will hear their pleas. It's number 43 for this Whitehaven side, a debut for Reece Fox, 20 years of age, and son of Vince Fox, once of Whitehaven and Great Britain under 24 could have been Great Britain under 24 could have been a lot more than that, but for serious injury. And great second row forward, and high hopes for Rees as well, who's getting his big chance this evening.
I believe he's a very cunning player.
We will see. Thackeray, it's Fox involved in the tackle there, in fact. And then the penalty. Offside again against this Whitehaven side. Every time, says the referee.
Every time you're offside.
And Leroy Joe just having a word, but not getting much change out of the referee.
Ronnie Lawton knows that each time Widnes have the ball, Whitehaven are creeping up. They're determined to get up there as quick as they can.
Gratian tackled on the halfway line. All 6'6" of him. Ben Kavanagh now. Kavanagh just inside the Whitehaven half. Webster, scorer of a memorable hat-trick at Whitehaven in that defeat earlier in the season. A hat-trick to no avail, the side going down 26-22 that night on Sky Sports. Webster down the short side, tackled by McAvoy. Could have had a penalty there, Widnes. Varkulis now. That's the 5th tackle. Webster, Thackeray now. Will Thackeray put a little kick in? No, they're running it, and Thackeray still going, Thackeray! Can't beat the last line of defence, but a valiant effort there from Anthony Thackeray. Almost got his way through.
Anthony Thackeray going across the Widnes line, show and goal, looking for the options, who's coming inside him, looking for that money ball. But he turns over that ball to Whitehaven, and again, it's in the right area of the park, because it's trapped Whitehaven in the corner of the park. You can get a real defensive, tight line, and you've got to get up and you've got to challenge the opposition.
Nearly half an hour gone here in this first playoff tie in the Championship playoff series. This an eliminator. The losers go out. The winners live to fight another day. Rudd is in all sorts of problems. He's got the penalty. And they've got another 10.
Widnes starting to lose some composure now. Widnes thought that there was an obstruction here somewhere. That was the cry for obstruction, but Ronnie Lawton having none of it.
I think it was Jim Gannon who was the one. He took objection to saying something. We've seen in the last few months, not just in the Championship but in Super League as well, the officials are not going to stand for back chat. Mattinson now.
Well, you never see a referee change his mind, do you, Bill?
Especially not a referee who's also a police officer. Mattinson, Carl Rudd now, McAvoy.
Second shot that Shane Grady's come up with, that very powerful.
Here's Carl Amor. He's got the centre of the try line.
And again, Widnes just waiting the 10 yards, letting him build a head of steam up.
Rudd, short pass, finds Rees Fox. Fox, a ball over the top, and they're in again. It's Derry Eelbeck who's got the try. Oh no, not a video ref call.
We came through there, Rob.
Obstruction? Well, somewhere, according to the referee, there was some obstruction.
Just seeing if a Widnes player is actually taken out of the play. You can see that James Webster goes into the tackle. There's no obstruction there.
There's contact made to Webster, though.
But if you look, James Webster goes in. The dummy runner... Richard Varkulis just pushes off the Whitehaven player.
This cat, surely not, because he then manages to... Varkulis gets away and manages to get involved in the next tackle.
Well, that's it. You can see that Webster goes in. He picks Fox as his man. Gorski goes through. Richard Varkulis pushes off him, but Fox manages to get that offload away.
Can I put this to you, though? If Thornley doesn't obstruct Webster, Varkulis, sorry, he's involved in that tackle here. He can lock the ball up, and then Fox cannot get that slide pass away. What do you think of that?
But you've got... I think you've got to say that Richard Varkulis has got to push off that defender.
Robert Hicks is the video ref.
About 5 metres out,
and it's his decision Derry Ilbeck's try is disallowed.
I'll tell you what,
Unbelievable. Those Haven supporters cannot fathom that.
well, Barry, you were on fire with that one.
There's the obstruction. Varkulis can't get involved in that tackle. It again shows Whitehaven's ability to get the ball away. Paul Cullen in the changing rooms at half-time will be saying, lock this ball up. Do not allow Whitehaven to get some offloads away. That was the 7th of the match.
Coming up to the half-hour mark, Reece Fox involved in that tackle. He's already had a positive impact, almost a very positive impact if that try had been allowed to stand, because it was his pass over the top. Paul Cullen looking like thunder on the sidelines there.
This is where Widnes are at their best, when Mark Smith can get out from dummy half and run into some scattered defence.
Great battle going on between Mattinson and Mark Smith. In fact, here's Varkulis. Varkulis comes back in field. That's the 5th tackle. Webster. Here is Thackeray now. Thackeray will hoist another one because Calvert wasn't so sound underneath the last one, and he's lost that one as well. It's gone backwards though, and they're going to get away with it. Benson will bring it back.
And again, Thackeray's kicking to probably the biggest player on the park, and that's Big John Grayson. It's very difficult for the Whitehaven players to try and rise above when they're standing flat-footed. You've got Big John Grayson running at you. On that occasion, Whitehaven come up trumps and they get the ball back.
Richard Varkulis just in a bit of trouble on this near side, just below us. The winger, he seems to have a knee problem. Just jogging back into line at the moment. But meanwhile, Whitehaven continue 18-4 ahead, so nearly 22-4, but for that last decision, there is Varkulis. Seems to be okay as Leroy Joe thumps that kick straight down the middle of the field. Gavin
catch
Dodd
it on the full.
And that is what you cannot do. You can't invite the opposition. You cannot let the ball bounce. If you let the ball bounce, you give the opposition another 10 metres.
The ball bobbles there, and it's 2-3 seconds that's allowing Whitehaven to meet Gavin Dodd a little bit further up the pitch than what it would be if he caught the ball on the full.
And what that means, then, if he catches that ball on the full, they're now attacking in the opposition's half. There is a big problem. You're dead right with Richard Varkulis. He's gone down on his knees on this left side.
They've got enough injury problems to contend with as it is. Have Widnes with Toa Koilove out, John Duffy, Dean Gaskell, Ian Morrison as well. Now it looks as though Varkulis has got a problem. Oh, that's a great pass, gets the ball out wide to Paddy Flynn. Flynn, though, comes back in field. Could have been penalised there, could Rob Jackson. Crossfield kick, it's a good one, finds a little bit of space, and Benson across to field the ball. Craig Benson has battled his way back to fitness after a broken leg.
That was a good kick by Widnes then. Dissected the winger and the fullback, allowing the kick chase team to get in and restrict Whitehaven's progress up the pitch.
Three tackles gone in this set of 6. Whitehaven ahead. Jackson takes some stopping. Mark Jackson, he's still going. He's lost the ball then in his enthusiasm, and it was stolen, says the referee.
But it's the second effort off Jackson. He keeps pumping his legs. He's got an initial big surge. He goes into the tackle. Liederan's trying to control him.
Well, I'm not sure. I think he lost that, Jacko, then.
Here is Carl Edmondson, and Edmondson goes on a charge. There is Jackson losing that ball.
I stand corrected. No, that was stripped. My apologies to Mark Jackson.
So that penalty gives Whitehaven an opportunity now. 3 tackles gone. About 25 metres out from the Widnes try line. There's Chris Smith off the bench now for Whitehaven with the first dart. Leroy Joe. Reece Fox now. 43. I don't think we've been up that high in the squad list yet, so that's a first. Reece Fox in 43. Rudd, a little chip kick ahead, and Rudd will chase it. And Widnes just managing to defuse it. Gavin Dodd, I think it is, on his own try line, did well there.
Good play, and that was really brave. He was put under all kinds of pressure. There was legs coming in. And again, Gavin Dodd just bends down, feels a bit of a pain. Anthony Thackeray pats him on the back, says, well done, lad. But Carl Rudd giving this penalty away. Neat little kick, he goes down, he puts his body on the line. And that is a real brave effort. See, Scott Yates is on. It's Carl Rudd that goes down. And it's that second effort. It's the flop by Gorski.
Going to play the ball down, interference, etc. You need no more of it. Sort it out before I have to sort it out. Okay?
And Ronnie Lawton pulling Leroy Jones, saying the next penalty I give for slowing the play of the ball down, then somebody's in the bin. He's recognised that Whitehaven at every opportunity are trying to slow Widnes down.
And the game is all about defensively controlling your opposition. If you play direct, you run hard, you will get rewarded. You will either earn a penalty or you will knock someone on the backside and get a one-on-one.
Widnes Vikings could do with something in the closing minutes of this first half. They trail 18-4 here to the side that's finished below them in the Cooperative Championship, Whitehaven. Flynn comes across the field.
They've kept the ball away from Paddy Flynn tonight. They're kicking to Richard Varkulis' side.
Here's Gavin Dodd now. Dodd gets the ball to Yates. Yates has got support on the inside. Oh, he's brilliant. Grady on his inside. He couldn't get the pass away, or he didn't want to get the pass away. Now Thackeray, crossfield kick. Calvert, under pressure, has lost the ball. That's going to be head and feed, or is it?
I think that was a Widnes knock-on.
Paddy Flynn jumps for the ball and he loses possession. Knocks the ball forward, he jumps high, he jumps strong. That's the correct decision by the referee, Ronnie Lawton.
Scott Yates bombs this try, though. He's in the clear, he's got support on the inside, and it's a simple pass.
So referee and touch judge working well together there. And Craig Calvert breathing a sigh of relief. Calvert playing the ball. I thought at them just for a moment that it was Calvert who'd got a hand to it, but no. The officials spotted it right on the spot. And again, Whitehaven's line survives, but they might look back on that opportunity because Shane Grady was wide open on the inside.
And when you're playing in semi-final and you're playing in knockout football, you've got to take your opportunities every time you get one, and Widnes definitely blew that chance.
Chris Smith into the last 5 minutes then of a first half that has been a surprise to neutral observers, I would imagine, who anticipated Widnes on their own pitch would be a tough prospect.
And that's the difference. Scott Yates caught that ball on the full, ran as hard as he could, and he chewed up those metres.
Widnes in possession, deep in their own half. Let's go down to the sidelines, join Rod Studd.
Well, Bill, we saw Richard Varkulis limp off the field with a knee injury. Not believed to be serious, though, the Widnes doctors tell us, so hopeful that he can come back and play his part in this game. And boy, they need some sort of comeback, don't they? 18-4 down.
That is Varkulis when he went down just a short time ago, and that looks as though it's where he just jarred his knee. Good run from Lee Doran, but that's the fifth tackle. They're on the 40-metre line. Chris Smith has really got to be careful there after the warning Ron Lawton gave last time out. A little chip kick over the top from Thackeray. Dodd is chasing. Great pass. Out wide. They're in. The try from Tim Hartley. Although I think it'll be another video ref decision. But great thinking there from Thackeray, from Dodd, and the finish from Hartley. But were they onside, I think, is the question.
That's the question that Ronnie Lawton, the referee, is asking Robert Hicks, who's the video ref. Clever play.
Absolutely superb play. Dodd and Thackeray knew what was coming. They'd set this up. He's onside. Superb score.
The try is awarded, and that is exactly what Widnes wanted just before the half-time break. Tim Hartley getting his fourth try of the season. The coach, well, I wouldn't go as far as to say that he's satisfied, but he's probably breathing a little bit easier because they needed that boost before they went into half-time.
You're dead right, Bill. Widnes needed that. They needed something to come up. And it's just clever play. Anthony Thackeray, Gavin Dodd called for that ball. He was alert for where it was, and there was two Widnes players in support, and it's that man, Tim Hartley, who scores the try. But good build-up play. You've got to play the ball, you've got to play with players around you, pushing up in support. Gavin Dodd was alert to what was going on there, and Tim Hartley gets in for the try for Widnes.
And Hartley will try and convert this try as well.
You know, the viewers at home don't realise what a difficult skill it is to kick the ball 10 or 15 metres forward and get it to bounce backwards. Absolutely superb skill.
From the touchline, this for his 50th goal of the season. He's missed it. Widnes Vikings 8, Whitehaven 18, as the half-time hooter approaches, and Jed Stokes just wanting to ensure that there are no more defensive frailties in the last 90 seconds or so of this first half.
He'll just be asking his troops to switch on in defence. Whitehaven not in any hurry to start this game after that try was scored against them, but you're dead right, Bill. It was a try that Widnes needed, but it shows that you've got to switch on, and this game is all about field position.
Discipline, lads, when we get there.
Webster underneath that restart, so Whitehaven will try and ensure that Widnes stay deep in their own half, but Ben Kavanagh with a strong run, trying to do something about that.
And it's the speed at which Ben Kavanagh can get down and play that ball. This is why Widnes have earned the penalty. Ben Kavanagh gets down, he plays the ball really quick. The Whitehaven players cannot get back. Somebody back chatting. They'll be taking 10 minutes in the bin.
It's Spencer Miller, I think, who's gone to the bin.
And that'll be a real big blow for Jed Stokes. Spencer Miller's had a real good first half.
Now, I'm not sure whether that was for the offence of persistent offside or whether it was because of something that was said. We'll try and check that with the officials.
Yep, who, me, ref? Yes, you, Spencer.
He was a bit bewildered by that decision, and the Whitehaven defence looking a bit bewildered at the moment. Gavin Dodd was who played the ball. Here is Fletcher now. Clock running down at the end of this first half. Widnes looking for more points to close the gap. Thackeray stepping away from the first challenge of Jackson, but Jackson comes back to get a hold of him. The hooter sounds. Last opportunity for Lee Duran. The ball comes loose. That'll be the end of the first half. A first half that, by and large, Whitehaven have dominated. Probably against a lot of people's expectations. Not theirs, presumably. And they've justified the faith their coach showed in them ahead of this game